Hey guys, what's up? Stock Retail coming back to you. I'm recording this on my Sunday late afternoon. I don't think I'll release this until tomorrow morning, so you're probably hearing me on your Monday morning. But as I film this, it is a gorgeous day here in Oregon. I am looking out the window at a beautiful sunset, kind of just beginning to form. It's about 4:30, 4:40 over here. I hope you all have had a great day, a great weekend. Look, I know there's tough news out there, but there's also a lot of beauty in the world. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that today too. But today's topic, as you can see, is just going to cover some exciting developments I see in AMC's business model. If you followed me a long time, you guys know that I tend to notice some things and call them out well in advance. We're going to do that today, but some of these are actually just already in process. And I think just if we look at the list of things, and sometimes you just say stuff out loud, you go, whoa, there's a lot of really positive developments happening to AMC right now that I believe are not priced in yet. So just worth talking about. Excited to see movies that are coming. Tron has been one I've been watching for a long time. So just wherever you are, again, for me, my kind of Sunday afternoon, for you, probably Monday morning, starting what I hope is a great week. Let's dive in. So the first thing, of course, you guys get some of these will be obvious, some of these less obvious. I'm going to cover a few topics that are not quite as obvious too. But I think the first thing that we need to acknowledge that's going on for AMC is sort of AMC exclusives and AMC distribution. We've got 5 of these now, at least by my count. I might have missed a couple others. I know we released a couple documentaries too. And so maybe I should have put those in here. But the point is, now we're coming up on our second Taylor Swift event. We've had Beyonce, we've had Billie Eilish, we've had Eminem. Clearly there is a music connection to AMC, and not just to showing these films, or in Billie Eilish's case, the listening event, but actually to AMC distributing these. And so the thing is, you want to think about how big this is to AMC, because on events like Taylor Swift, we get not only, we're an exhibitor, which is normal, right? We show movies, we're an exhibitor, but we are also a distributor. So last time around, if I recall, 47% cut went to exhibitors. So when people sold tickets at AMC, Cinemark, Regal, etc., or around the world, they got to keep 47% of the ticket price. And then 53% went back to a split between the Swift family and AMC. And so I believe that'll probably, something like that will happen again. It's not like I've seen a contract. I can't tell you that for sure. But I'm just going on history and saying there's probably some kind of similar deal, or perhaps they even just kept the deal in place. Maybe they had left it open to do more collaboration like what we're seeing. So there's some cut of the 53%. So AMC, when we sell a ticket, we keep 47% for this event. But then we keep another cut of the other 53%, even from our own ticket sales. Then we get some cut of that 53% from every other ticket sold around the world, right? So there's some bigger increment here that effectively makes, I've kind of run some numbers. It makes, this Taylor Swift event be, I don't know. I guess I won't put a number to it because I want to wait and see, but I'll just put it to you this way. It's like making it a much, much bigger movie than it is. If you had a normal movie, the size it would have to be to give AMC this amount of revenue is significantly bigger. And so we're going to watch this and have a lot of fun and think about what AMC is making. But it's something a lot more than on a normal movie. And if I go back, right, so now this is the 5th time this is happening. And with Eminem and with Billie Eilish, I know for Eminem, I believe with Billie Eilish, those were AMC exclusive too. You couldn't even go see it anywhere else. So got a lot of good things happening there. And then don't sleep on the fact, obviously we sell merch when these happen. With the Eras tour, we had time to prepare. We had a lot of merch. That went really well. I don't know, it seems like some of the news is that the Swifts kind of, called up Adam and said, hey, you want to do this? This one might have happened a little quicker. I don't know if we have as much merch. We'll see. But then also, last time around, I noticed the market share was significantly higher. So if you followed me a while, or I suppose if you're new here, I'll explain that I do a lot of forecasting for us, for AMC, have been reasonably accurate on that. And so one of the things that I've already done in my forecast is to say, okay, for this event, we probably have a higher market share than usual. A lot of the Swifties, you get AMC's name associated with putting this out, so they buy tickets at AMC. So pretty cool to see. We'll watch that. So that's just kind of item number 1 of things that are going well for AMC. And let's say if we've had 5 of these, I'm going to guess we're not done. We probably have more coming over the next, year and years to come. So great to see that growing AMC distribution. Now, I've talked a few times, certainly a lot on X. Now and then I talk about it here on YouTube, but I want to just level set, make sure we're all on the same page, especially because this tends to get trolled on X and people like to sort of distract from what's really happening. You need to understand, so maybe I'll give you the troll and then we'll kind of address the positive side of things. When you own a stock, if you're a public company, like a while back, Amazon owned some Rivian stock. And there was a quarter where Amazon just absolutely crushed it because the Rivian stock had gone up. What happens is when you own a stock, within the quarter, you get to count the change in the stock, the change in your position, and then you count that as either revenue or expense in that quarter. And so the troll is basically that, hey, AMC's down. We bought this, a couple of years ago, and we're down on our position. We're not up. Well, okay, overall, that can be true, but don't forget that within every quarter, there's still a shift. And so we get to record in our quarterly results that shift. Well, I'd like to think perhaps Hycroft had bottomed out because you can see that a while back, so I'm showing you the end of last quarter, which would be the beginning of this quarter. Hycroft was at 313. As of Friday close, we were at 606. Well, that difference, AMC owns 2.34 million shares, and that difference is this number here, the 6.85 million. So we're up almost $7 million on AMC's Hycroft shares this quarter. Okay, so don't let anybody tell you, well, AMC's down on the Hycroft position. I don't want to hear anything about it until AMC's up. It's not even worth talking about. Well, that's not true, because what it's going to do, if this 606 held, and we close 606 at the end of, I think, is Tuesday, the last September trading day, I think, then AMC will record $7 million of revenue from our Hycroft shares. Now, then don't sleep on the warrants. So AMC also owns basically the same amount of warrants they have some value. And so I would imagine that as the stock has gone up this amount, that the warrants have gone up some amount as well. I did check. There is a ticker of Hycroft warrants that does trade, HYMCL, but I don't know, because the thing is, there are different warrants at different times for different strike prices with different expirations. So I don't feel confident. I found the chart. I thought about telling you guys about it. You can go look it up for yourself. I don't feel confident using that because I think there's probably different prices for the different warrants based on the strike price and the expiration date and all of that. But the point is, I'm going to guess that with Hycroft being up 85% in the last 3 months, so basically 85% this quarter, that AMC's warrants are worth more now than they were at the beginning of the quarter. That also, I believe, gets recorded in our profit and loss statements, our income statement. Just a few kind of points of clarification on this slide. I see a lot of people saying that AMC owns 20% of Hycroft. I see a lot of people talking about 23 million shares. We need to correct some things because remember that Hycroft did a reverse split. So AMC owns 2.34 million shares, 2.34 million warrants. This bottom table is from Hycroft's own site that shows AMC has it's calling it 2.4 here. So I suppose they've rounded up, or maybe I'm just a little bit off on the 234. But anyway, they show that AMC owns 5%. And you will see on Hycroft's side as well that if AMC was to execute the warrants, so that warrant number is also on Hycroft's side, AMC would own about 9% of Hycroft. So AMC owns 5%, could execute the warrants and own 9%. That's the right number on what AMC owns for Hycroft. Okay, but just bottom line on this slide, if I said, hey, we got Taylor Swift going on, we just had Eminem, that's adding money to AMC. As Hycroft goes up, that's adding money to AMC, at least 7 million-ish this quarter alone. I have a feeling it could be more. I didn't put on the slide also that remember AMC has part ownership in National Cinemedia, NCMI is the ticker. And I think that is maybe up in the quarter. I'd have to go double check that too, but we also own that. All right. We also are part owners of Fathom Entertainment. So I've shared that a couple times. I did have a video quite a while back where I misstated. I think I kept saying A24, and a couple of you were sharp and caught that. You're like, I don't think we own A24. That's correct. We don't. A24 is a movie studio. But Fathom Entertainment is basically like a group that brings re-releases. And then you'll see a lot of other stuff. Like there's some smaller indie films. There's some kind of feel-good Hallmarky films. There is like live opera type of films. So Fathom Entertainment is bringing a whole bunch of movies out. In September here that we just had, they brought a lot of movies and filled in the box office and did very well. There's some great movies that were brought out. You can even see here, I'm showing you in Q4, the quarter coming. I think 3 of these are actually in September. So Paranorman is coming back out, The Dark Crystal, the entire Twilight series. I'm only showing you the first one here, but the entire Twilight series is coming back to theaters. Rocky 4 is, I think, in November. I grew up loving Rocky as a kid, so that's exciting to see Rocky 4 coming back out. So Fathom brings a bunch of re-releases and then some other original content. And AMC is part owner of that. We did that with, I think, Cinemark and Regal, maybe somebody else too. It's a joint venture, so we're just like part owners. But as Fathom continues to grow and succeed, that is also making AMC money. So I want you to know that that's part of our business as well. Advertising revenue. So you remember that we increased the amount of ads. I'm pointing you back to a podcast I've told you about a few times. Go check that out sometime. You can hear it from the boss's mouth. Adam talked about that this move on advertising, first off, that our competitors had already been doing it for years. So ignore all the FUD on this. Everybody else was already doing it. Adam just said, all right, it's time for AMC to stop passing up all this money as well. Well, we're getting tens of millions of dollars per year. That is a direct quote from him. So I just ask you, what's tens of millions? Is that 20? And I can call that, it's technically 2 tens. Is that 40 a year? Is it 80? I don't know what tens of millions a year means. So just so you know, right now, I've just put a plug in my forecasts. I've got about $6.5 million a quarter. That'd be 26 million a year. But, keep in mind, if I've just said, hey, we've made like $7 million this quarter on Hycroft, we're increasing almost $7 million on our ads. We've got Taylor coming up, and we just did M&M. We've got Fathom that's growing, and we're part owners. Do you guys start hearing how this is all stacking up, and we're starting to make more money than we used to, right? So let's keep going. Well, foreign exchange. You guys have followed me on X. You've seen me talk about FX. I think I've said it a few times here on YouTube, maybe a little less here than on X. So let me talk about this a little bit. Any U.S. company that does business outside of the U.S. translates its outside, its overseas business, or its outside the borders business back into dollars when it reports. You guys know that I worked at Nike for 21 years, so I'm very well versed in FX. I worked directly for our treasury group for a while. I was with like MIT economists. They were literally doing the FX trading for Nike, and I learned a lot. Those are some smart guys. But anyway, so the point is, when foreign exchange moves, kind of, let's call it in sort of a tough direction for your business, you'll hear people talk about FX headwinds. And when it moves in a way that helps your business look better, those are called FX tailwinds, where we are in a tailwind right now for AMC. So what's been happening, and actually I should clarify that, okay? I'm going to add some context to that because Adam might nuance that. We'll talk about that. But here's what I'm showing you. In Q2 that we just reported, that's actuals, the foreign exchange was kind of, let's say 5% in our favor. In other words, the euro in particular, because AMC has Odeon, in the UK, AMC has UCI that I think is kind of like Germany and I don't know, probably the rest of parts of Western Europe. And then we have some Nordic. So we've got some doors kind of in the Nordics. And so between all these European property locations for us, when the euro or the sterling move against the dollar, and so what I'm showing you even is basically year over year, the dollar is lower against those currencies, right? So that means when you sell a ticket, let's make it real simple to understand. When you sell a ticket for, let's say, 10 euro, and last year it was 10 euro, and this year it was 10 euro. And then basically when you do your income statement, in a way, on paper, just kind of on paper, it's like you're buying dollars to put into the income statement. Well, if last year that 10 euro was worth, say, $10, but this year that 10 euro is worth $11 because the dollar isn't worth as much, right? So then you're looking like your US dollar business actually grew year over year, and it's due to foreign exchange. This is a very normal thing. That's why you get into these FX headwinds and FX tailwinds and all that. So what I'm telling you then is in Q2, it was kind of 5%. Let's say the euro was stronger against the dollar year over year. Then Q3, and I'm just showing you by month. So I did some research on the accounting rules, and you basically kind of, I think, use a monthly rate for your business. And you could fact check me that, especially any of you CPAs, but do a little bit of internet search, you kind of see that. I'm now showing you the kind of a quarterly average at the left. It'll just give you at least an idea directionally of where we've been. So then Q3, the dollar moved even lower against the euro, which is a tailwind. It's positive for us. Q4, very low against the euro. Now we haven't quite closed, so I had pulled these numbers Friday, I believe. And so let's see where we really land. But you can just see, I'm showing you. So here's last year. Like, look at July, August, September. That's Q3. And so if we look, we've got like $1.08 to the euro last year in July, but then almost $1.17 to the euro in July this year. So that's what I mean. This shift that's gone on. And I just have a feeling that Q4 is even bigger, especially because look at last December, there was closer to parity. We're not tracking that way right now. We're tracking kind of the other way. And so we may have some pretty big tailwind for us. Now, I want to mention something. When I'm just kind of saying, oh, we got to clarify that. Is it tailwind? Is it headwind? Now, in the past, when we were losing money, your costs also translate. So Adam might, if he was on here, or say Sean Goodman, our CFO, was on here, they might say, well, okay, yes, it translates your sales into growth, but it also translates your European costs into growth, and that's not so great. But remember that I'm going to talk about Q4 by the end of this video, and Q4 being very profitable for us. And so I suspect this is a tailwind, and I can prove it to you too anyway. Look at our results. This is from AMC's last filing. If you kind of dig farther down, you will see a comprehensive income statement. Now, that's a little bit different than net income. Comprehensive income, notice how this says unrealized foreign currency translation adjustments. So you've got some other things in here that aren't in the normal income statement. And so we're carrying, so look at the 6 months ended. So for the first half of this year, we're carrying $64 million in our favor. Like I said, tailwind from foreign currency translation adjustments. And you can see of that 64, 11 came in the first quarter. Sorry, the second quarter. We added $11 million to our favor in the second quarter. So what I'm telling you is if the foreign exchange rate was kind of 5% in our favor, and that translated to $11 million. Now you got to figure out what's the size of the box office too. And so I even did some napkin math on my side. Then it got even better in Q3, and I think even a lot better in Q4. And then if Q4 is a much bigger quarter, my point is this 64 million is going to keep growing. So I think we've got a tailwind right now that's going to be adding to our comprehensive income. So start watching that on the earnings filings. Maybe I'll start showing you when I do those deep dives on the earnings teardown. We'll track the foreign exchange impact. But just if all these numbers are making you gloss over, pull one thing away from this. The fact that the dollar's been going down against the euro is going to turn into some, basically, let's call it FX related or paper related growth for AMC. I think it's going to make AMC's business look better, which should be priced into the stock at some point. So that is helpful for us. So that's just one more of the items as I stack all these items that are in AMC's favor right now. You should just be thinking, whoa, all these things are going to start adding value to my stock. Debt pay down. So we paid down $143 million in July, which is this quarter. So that had not yet been reported in last quarter's results. Now keep in mind then, because we paid it right at the beginning of July, here I am showing you that announcement that came July 1st, so literally the beginning of July, that we, I believe, it kind of depends on the blend of all the interest rates we had, because this was a whole refinance and all of that. Well, it was the court settlement kind of from the refinance the year prior. So keep in mind, if we paid off this 143, then for the third quarter that we are about to finish, and then we'll report, we'll probably have our earnings released in November, I bet. That's saving us close to $3 million in our borrowing costs. So yet another improvement to AMC's earnings. This quarter alone, probably adding $3 million to the bottom line. And then every quarter after, right? We're just done with that debt. We're not having to pay it anymore. So you're going to start to see your company's earnings improve by this $3 million a quarter. And that's not then counting any other debt pay down that we've got going on. Well, we didn't just pay down debt, right? We also had interest rate cuts. So pretty recently, a couple of weeks ago, the Fed cut rates by a quarter of a point. And now I'm showing you when Adam had posted in September of last year, that was a 50 basis point cut. So that was like double what we just had from the Fed. That's like two cuts in a way. So a 0.5% or 50 basis points that Adam was saying that would save us 10 million a year. So you could say at that time, then this quarter point cut from the Fed would save you $5 million a year. And so what I'm saying is, well, since last September, in that time, we've also paid down quite a bit of debt. And so I don't think we save quite as much anymore because now your total pie is a little smaller. So a percent cut is smaller. But I'm saying, I'm going to guess that that quarter point rate cut the Fed just did probably saves over $1 million a quarter for AMC. Let's call that 1.1 to like 1.3 million. I'm going to guess 1.1-ish million dollars a quarter. So you just see here, and I'm going to show you at the end a view of all of these stacked up, that all of these things are adding to AMC's bottom line every quarter now from here on out. I suppose you could say, well, is the Fed going to keep cutting rates? Will rates go back the other way? So I guess I'm not saying forevermore, but for now and for the foreseeable future, AMC is saving over $1 million a year just from that quarter point rate cut. And I would not be surprised if we may see more coming. All right. Then keep in mind, Q4 is looking like the biggest since 2019. And I'm just showing you 3 of the biggest movies of the quarter, but I've talked about that quite a bit. I believe this quarter has a shot at like $2.8 billion at the domestic box office. That is something that has not been done since 2019. In fact, I got to go back and look, but I don't even think we've hit 2.7. I ought to have double checked that. But the point is, we've definitely not hit 2.8. We've been in the high 2.6s, like 2.67. And so this would be the biggest quarter since 2019, I believe, with also everything I told you about Taylor Swift and that being actually a highly profitable movie, more than a normal movie for AMC. So think about, if I say, let's say we have a shot, we hit that 2.8 billion, then it actually feels like even bigger than 2.8 billion for AMC because you got to add the incremental revenue for Taylor Swift. So all of that stacks up. Why don't we just look at that and just think that through? And so let's just look at Q3, for example. So we had the Eminem Stans release. I told you that FX was looking pretty good. Fathom had a real big September. If you would go back and look at all the releases Fathom had in September. So even, I'll give you another example. The Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire. All 3 of those were just out this weekend. I think combined they did about, it wasn't huge, but it was like, say, 2 million-ish or something like that. I know Back to the Future is coming out, although I didn't see that on Fathom's website, so that might not be Fathom. So don't let me, overhype on that. But the point is, they brought out a lot in September, and gosh, that's been going great. And so if you kind of look at how that's been going and what's coming in the future, great to see. And then so Hycroft, we already talked about that, maybe adding about $7 million in the quarter for the shares. Then who knows for the warrants. Now, we got to see, how's Hycroft going to track the next couple days? So what does AMC actually get to close the quarter with? Because you count the change in the price from the first day of the quarter to the last day of the quarter. That's why I showed you that closing price as of June 30th, because then on July 1st, we track from there. The advertising, I told you that maybe this is a wild guess on my part. In fact, look at the disclaimer at the top. All these numbers contain all kinds of assumptions and guesses on my part. So I'm counting on $6-7 million a quarter. We're going to find out once this quarter reports. Let's find out what Adam and Sean have to say about that. We've got the reduced debt this quarter that you can just kind of lock in, probably around $2.5-3 million of savings. We know the rate cut happened. I guess there's something I'm realizing in real time here that's not quite correct. That rate cut was not active for the whole quarter, so I should not count the full $1 million savings on Q3. But going forward, absolutely in Q4, we're not even in Q4 yet, and the rates are already lowered. So that will absolutely count for future quarters. And so notice then on some of these, what I'm saying is if you go across, like take that reduced debt. We paid off the debt. Well, it still remains paid off in future quarters. So you're now pocketing that savings every quarter in perpetuity. Like from here on out, we're just going to be pocketing, that's borrowing costs. We don't have to pay anymore. And then the reason I put plus, in Q4, what if we pay down more debt? And then in Q1 or throughout 2026, really, what if we pay down even more? So that's why you will see, I've told you before, it's kind of Dave Ramsey-ish. Guys, I'm getting tongue-tied today. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this around sunset my time. Anyway, you snowball this, right? So you get more savings, which frees up more cash to pay off more debt, which gets more savings, which frees up more cash. You see how that goes. So the point is, we'll be saving this 2.8 million every quarter, and who knows if we start making it even better and better and better, right? So watch for that. And then the same with the interest rates. So so remember, we can't really count all this 1 million. It's probably less than a third of that. So it's going to be negligible this quarter. So just knock this number down at the bottom. But, you know, let's say we have this $16.4 million ish this quarter alone, then I didn't even put a number, to some of the FX and what did M&M mean to us and how much did we make on Fathom and all of that. So you understand that we're not talking small numbers. We're starting to talk about every quarter. This says Mo. I didn't finish. Second video in a row, I think, that I didn't finish a slide. Sometimes I'm just trying to rush these out for you guys and then get back to my family. So more, that was going to say more coming, but I already showed you some of the more and what that looks like, right? So the point is, there is a lot going on that stacks up in our favor. And when you think about it all at once, you understand that this has not been priced into our stock. We got a lot. If you took a forward view of AMC, things just keep getting better and better. And I think that's going to be really great. So a couple more things, and we're almost done here. Just some miscellaneous. So reminder for those of you who are interested in GameStop that the warrants, the 1 to 10 warrants, you got to own blocks of 10 shares of GameStop to get a warrant. Every 10, you'll get another one. The ex-dividend date, so just means you got to own it by October 3rd, this Friday. I have said before I would play it safe if it was me. I would I would finish any buys before, like finish by at least Thursday. I think if I was being real safe, I'd finish them even by Wednesday if you want to just make sure to get your dividend. But, there's a chance your broker will also credit you for owning anything by the end of Friday. I just personally don't like to play around with that. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, the ex-dividend date, they will kind of take a look as of the close of Friday, see how many shares you own, figure out what warrants you're supposed to get. Go back. I did a whole video on the warrants. That is posted both here on YouTube on my channel, and also I posted it on X if you want to kind of understand more of all the ins and outs of that. I just keep your eyes out. I'm going to start doing a few more lives again, and I've got some more videos I'm going to start doing. I think I'll probably be a bit more active over the coming weeks, so kind of keep your eyes out for that. A few things on my mind, this third bullet. So I talked about foreign exchange. I'm going to be keeping track of that. I think, right now there's a lot of volatility in the global economy, and a lot of central bank moves, a lot of sovereign government moves. So that's just going to be a hot topic for a while, and you'll see me tracking that. Keep track of the rate cuts. Obviously, we've got the continued arm wrestling match between Jerome Powell and Trump's administration. So let's keep track of that. There's just a lot of developments I see in the AI space that I think are worth keeping track of. And the argument of, is it a bubble? Is it kind of sort of a generational opportunity worth talking about and tracking all of that? I would really, really keep track of the energy space, even as an investment opportunity. I've said that on X quite a bit. In fact, I've said it going back a whole year, maybe more. I would just suggest there needs to be not just significant, but I'll almost call it radical investment in the energy grid to support AI and support Bitcoin mining and a lot of other things. So that's probably a really great investment opportunity. Maybe I'll just talk about my thoughts on that sometime. I don't mean that as a distraction. I'm still all about, AMC, GameStop, Bitcoin, obviously strategy is some things that are connected. Speaking of strategy, so I'm going to share soon some Sailor commentary that really raised my eyebrows in a very positive way, but someone sent it to me and I was like, whoa, that's so cool that he commented on something that I have told you about going way, way back. So I'm going to share that soon. I kind of bucket that in upcoming videos. All right, so just 2 more slides. Hang with me. First one is kind of just a personal thought. Listen, there's a lot going on, and just I'm calling this the need of being versed in country things. There is a poem I stumbled onto in the last week that was kind of meaningful to me. It's a Robert Frost poem, and I'll just say what looks like an abandoned barn to one person might be a beautiful home to birds. And sometimes we look at something, we think it's sad, we think it's harsh, but it depends on your perspective. So gaining perspective sometimes, the birds think that's a beautiful home, and you might think, oh, it's sad that barn's abandoned, right? So it's just all in kind of the eye of the beholder. And what looks like a rough moment for one person might be a brand new start for another. So, like I said, life's about perspective, and you never know when the world is about to change in the blink of an eye or when it has been started. So, last thing, summary. Then we got our Sunday to get to, some football on my side to get to. I suppose for you, your Monday to attack. Let's go get it. Have a great week. All right, a large number of improvements are all beginning to stack up. Q4, I think, is going to be the best yet box office. Plus, in a way, this Taylor Swift event is like a bonus on top for AMC. 2026 looks even bigger. We'll talk about a full year forecast sometime soon. Don't forget, I didn't even put in this whole stack of things that are going great. That Paramount has, Skydance has infused Paramount with capital and has moved them from doing 8 films a year to 20. That's the goal. That's what they've said publicly, and brought the Duffer Brothers over and all of that. So that is then the promise of even more improvement in our business, because as studios are committed to making even more movies, that's been the thesis for AMC all along. Like, we're making a lot of money on the movies that happen. We just need more movies. And so that's been coming all along. And we will win. So let's go.